Can you send me, I mean, you don't have my number, but maybe send them to send me a photocopy of it?
Okay. You're not in here? Yeah, I think you're in.
No, I'm not in there.
You're not on the list,
No, I'm not in your group. Whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't want to give me your number?
I'm happy to give you my number. I do want to
be
put.
easier.
Sure. 054.
Let me just get. I'll put them right here. Okay. 054.
630. 8499.
8499.
Yeah.
Okay, Liat and Cinder.
יכמן.
It's just, 2 sentences.
Yeah,
if they
maybe
mention
it's
his
not
name, I
even
said Ephraim.
It's actually a very special book. It's worth looking at. But they translated it now to English.
Yes, I know.
Right.
I'm hesitating. Should I read it? It's because
I'll tell you the truth. I didn't read it.
Okay.
Like I didn't read most of it. Only the people I knew. I just couldn't. Like it's when you're personally involved. What? They made a book, and they took all the not everybody agreed, but they took the soldiers or whatever who left the last letter.
It's called If You're Reading This.
Right, so my son left a letter like that. He left a letter, and he titled it Ima, and he said, Ima tem korim et ze, ani kvar lo itchem. And then he had a whole message that he had to do. But for me, the most amazing thing is the ability for somebody at the age of 21 to face the fact that that it's possible. And he was a very realistic person and like thinking ahead. And I think he knew that it's a possibility. Like he was an egavist, which is kind of a dangerous position. But the ability to think, okay, so what do I want to say? And his letter happens to be, I think, a letter of he thought about what were the things he learned in his life, and he passed them on. So he lived what he wrote. So I think that's.
I think there's only they didn't quote a lot of it.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'll send you.
Okay.
Maybe I can even find the article online.
Okay.
I
mean, two lines is 2 lines. Anyway, בסדר. טוב. Putting Yom HaZikaron behind us. Although I think that this parak is actually very relevant because it's like Am Yisrael learning how to be an Am. Like this whole sefer is a lot about how Am Yisrael learning to be an Am, and I think we also are. And part of it is learning to be there for each other, which sometimes does require Mesirat Nefesh. But okay, we're going to start with the sheets we had last time, because on the other side is Perek Hafal. Okay. If anybody doesn't have, I have. Yeah, I forgot. Okay. I don't know how many. I have one extra. I have one extra, so you could share. Yeah. Okay. There's a lot today. Like I wanted to finish the parak and try to do a little sikum, but I don't know if we're going to manage. Okay. So we left off last time where Am Yisrael had been defeated twice. We got to the point of a complete civil war. Am Yisrael was defeated twice by Binyamin, even though asking the Urim v'Tumim. And then the third time they do tshuva, it seems, and then they go up they say to Hashem, should we even fight? Maybe you should have asked that the first time. And then Hashem says yes, and I'll give you in your hand. And then, in addition to everything, they also use tactic as opposed to just assuming that they're going to win. And then they do defeat Binyamin, but they kill all of Binyamin except for 600 soldiers, including the women and children, and they destroy the cities of Binyamin. We asked at the end the question of why. There's a lot of hard questions, but we ended with the question of why did Am Yisrael have 2 days of defeat and lost 40,000 soldiers. And we brought the midrash that like they, you're demanding the kavod. Again, and we're not saying it's not the right thing to make sure that there isn't something like Pילגש בגבעה that is to the extent of compared to Sdom and Amorah. It's not quite there, but it's in the ballpark. But you didn't demand Kvod Hashem in terms of Pesach Micha. Like that's what the midrash said. It's so nice that you're going for Kvod Adam, but what about Hashem? And might be why they were defeated. Okay, so now let's see what happens after. And it doesn't necessarily get completely better, but there is some nechama. Okay. Perek Kaf Aleph. ואיש ישראל נשבע במצפה לאמור איש ממנו לא ייתן ביתו לבנימין לאישה. Okay, so they made a shvuah at the. So now Binyamin has 600 men, but if nobody gives their daughters to Binyamin, then what could happen?
Like zero.
Goodbye, Binyamin. Like we have one shevet of 12 shevatim that is going to be missing. And now, why did they make this shvuah? So I listened a couple of times to Rav Meidan. Rav Meidan has this whole mahalach that like the shvuah was made before the actual civil war. When Binyamin is not allowing the rapers or the bad people to be judged, then Am Yisrael is like, that's not okay. And then there is a cherem done on Binyamin. Okay, the concept of cherem, it happens. Like we do know the concept of cherem. So it could be at that time they were like, okay, we're not giving our children to Binyamin because they are not doing justice. That's also an important concept, right? Okay, so vayavo ha'am Beit El. וישבו שם עד הערב לפני האלוהים וייסעו כולם ויבכו בחיגתו. Okay, so here we have another time where we're seeing that they're starting to feel the consequences of what just happened, and they go to Hashem and they're crying. What do we do now? ויאמרו לה, למה השם אלוקי ישראל הייתה זאת בישראל להיפקד היום מישראל שבט אחד? Okay, so on the one hand, you're like, oh, at least they get it. On the other, they're like, you did it!
Are they blaming Hashem?
Are they blaming Hashem?
Or are they asking?
I think the way they see it is sort of like, it happened. You know what I'm saying? So if it happened, but if the consequence is going to be that there's not going to be a whole shevet, suddenly they're seeing the consequences. I don't know if they're blaming Hashem, but I think that
Hashem allowed it to happen.
Yes, Hashem allowed it to happen, to some extent, recognizing that Hashem allowed it to happen. That's probably the right way of saying it. I'm just trying to bring the Malbim here.
It was allowed to happen at a price. They just didn't see that.
They didn't look at the price.
Yeah.
Right,
Now they can, in retrospect.
Yeah, look at the price. And look at her. I mean, there's serious consequences to their actions, but it's just like a little bit ironic the way they're saying it. Like, how could it be that Shevet Echad will be Nikhad? And like, you guys killed them. Like, it's just like some part of us.
But
It's
it
like,
could be that they didn't really think. You know, you get carried
How
away
far
in the
does-
heat of the
Mea
battle,
achuz.
and they didn't
Mea achuz.
realize,
well,
you know,
Me'achuz.
the consequences of their actions.
Rav Meidan talks about that. Like, they were heated. Like, they were like fired up, and then they were so annoyed when they heard that guy talk. They didn't even do a proper deen there, right? They're so annoyed. Okay, we're going to get them, and then they just get stoked more and more and more and more and more until they don't even. It gets out of hand. And also, you have 3 days of 40,000 of their soldiers who've been killed. Like, that doesn't help the fire. Like, it's not fun. Okay, so Malbim. ויבוא העם בית אל וכולי, ויאמרו למה השם אלוקי. We're in 7, the source 7 there, okay? אחר שאם לא היו בישראל נופלים בשתי הפעמים הראשונים, לא היו מחרימים את בנימין עד כלה. He says, okay, but maybe if there hadn't been such bad consequences to Israel, they wouldn't have done this cherem. והיו מענישים את החוטאים בלבד. Like if they hadn't had those first 2 days of fighting, then they just would have taken, if Binyamin, let's say, also would have given them the killers or the Bnei Belial, then it wouldn't have gone to this extent. ולא להרוג טף אנשים להשמיד הכל. רק על ידי שבנימין הפיל מישראל 40,000, לכן עשו בו נקמה. Like it became a tit for, like not tit for tat, but like they became, as you said, heated, and then it was like out of control. ועתה באו לפני השם, יושבים ובוכים ומחפשים וחוקרים, מה היה הסיבה לזה? למה חרה אף השם בם? עד שנפלו במלחמה בשתי פעמים הראשונים, וזה היה סיבה לרעה יותר עצומה להיפקד היום מישראל שבט אחד. כי אף שנשארו 600 איש, על כל פנים היום נפקד השבט, כי מתי מספר לא יקרא בשם שבט, והם רק שרידי שבט ולא שבט. Okay, so the Malbim like brings out like what is Israel thinking? Because the 40,000 were killed, so then they felt they had to do this nikama, and they went all the way and then killed. And then they're sitting and trying to figure out like how could it be that it got to this point, and to the point where we're really almost not having a shepherd. Okay. Okay. Wait, but his next one, the one I no, it's not yet. Okay. ויהי ממחרת וישכימו העם ויבנו שם מזבח ויעלו עולות ושלמים. Okay, so then the next day they calmed down. By the way, I was just thinking like 3 days how much destruction can happen, right? Like it's just it's mind-boggling. And then you wake up the fourth morning, like, and this is what I'm left with. So you wake up and then they bring mizbech, they bring olot shlamim. ויאמרו בני ישראל, מי אשר לא עלה בקהל מכל שבטי ישראל אל השם, כי השבועה הגדולה הייתה, לאשר לא עלה על השם המצפה לאמור מות יומת. Okay? So this is something we didn't go at the time into as much. Just like, who of all, is there anybody, so they're trying to figure out an answer to the problem of Binyamin. I was thinking, wait a second, was there anybody who didn't come when they were supposed to come? When all of Israel was ne'esaf against Binyamin? Because there was a very big shvu'ah that you had to come up and be with Am Yisrael, otherwise you die. Okay? So now we're going to get to the next uncomfortable for us situation is that we're going to find a whole city that didn't come, okay? And the shvu'ah that they made, right, that nobody should marry, the shvu'ah, they made a shvu'ah, whoever doesn't come up now to the mitzvah, they should be killed. If you aren't part of Am Yisrael, you don't stand up for this terrible thing, you should be killed. Now again, there's also something very extreme about that. Right? We're not comfortable with that either. Okay? וינחמו בני ישראל על בנימין אחיו, ויאמרו נגדע היום שבט אחד מישראל. Okay? And וינחמו, what does the Malbim say about וינחמו? Usually, by the way, the word וינחמו, we hear it as they're comforted, right? But it's actually they had a change of mind. Like also Hashem is v'yenachem Hashem with Noach, that he created the world, he created people, and then he's going to destroy, do the mabul. V'yenachem is a word of transition. Okay. V'yenachamu ad atah diber min ha'avar ki chakru al ha'avar lama ne'enshu. Okay, so now we were talking about the past. Up to now they were thinking, why did they get punished to have 40,000 people die? Okay? Now they're changing and looking in a different way. ושחשבו שיש אפשרויות שמקצת מהם עברו על השבועה ולכן נענשו. So they decided maybe somebody didn't come and that's why we got punished with the 40,000. Again, I feel like they're a little bit missing the boat here, right? Yeah. But this is the way they're going. ולא היה זה מוטל עליהם לדרוש על זה, כי למה יחקרו על זה הלא העבר אין. So why would we look into it before? רק עתה התחדש אצלם העניין החדש, now we have a new thing, והוא כי נזכרו שבעת חמתם נשבעו שאיש מהם לא ייתן את ביתו לבנימין, ולפי זה הגם שנשארו משבט בנימין 600 איש. So, okay, so they've come into this situation. They swore nobody can marry Binyamin. They now are in a situation that Binyamin has 600 men, that's all Binyamin has, and there's nobody to marry them. Okay, so now they're thinking a new situation. They're trying to look back and think, is there some way out of this problem? And they're thinking about the fact that maybe somebody didn't come to do the Shuvah before. It wasn't relevant to look into it. Now they're looking into it. Okay? הלא לא ימצאו נשים כי נשי בנימין נהרגו כולם, ובזה ימחה השבט כולו. וזה יהיה מום וחיסרון גדול לכלל האומה. Okay, so this is a problem that won't be of the shevet. I think I will stop here for now. וזה שכתוב נגדע היום שבט אחד מישראל ובערו התם כי מה נעשה להם לנותרים לנשים. So how are we going to marry them off? So they're trying to look.
The 600 men, they're all marriageable age.
Yeah,
well,
they were warriors. They were
The
soldiers.
soldiers.
Yes, there are only 600 soldiers. They were hid in the Rimon.
Okay.
Remember, they hid in the Rimon. Nobody else is left. They destroyed all the cities. They destroyed all the Nashim, and they destroyed. Yeah. What
The
do you say?
Hemshech of the Maldim is very important.
What I skipped?
What you're leaving out.
שאי אפשר נכון, 100%, נכון. Like the Malbim does bring out a point, and I should have read that. You're right, absolutely. That when there's no shevet, then they're missing a whole part of them, and then how can the Shekhinah be here? Like how could like we're like it's
We're
not
one unit.
suddenly it matters to them too that they destroyed the Binyamin cities. Like meaning there's a little bit of a lot of selfishness here in this whole story. But nachon, no, but be'emet, I think also let's give them the credit that they really are having. I think it's clear in the psukim too. They have a nikifot put matzbun. We didn't want it to go this far, right? And I think, let's say, on a smaller scale, when Rabin was killed, like I think nobody wanted it to go that far. And I'm not blaming anybody specifically. I'm just saying everybody was shocked by that. Like, we can disagree, but to the extent of somebody dying because of it, that's too far. I mean, here it's a lot more than just one person. But I'm not to belittle Rabin, but okay. But just to understand it on a small scale. Okay. So I'll finish reading the Malbim because he says it also very nice. Rakim hem 12 שבטים ואם יחסר שבט אחד הוא פגם גדול לכלל האומה כנזכר בדברי חז"ל, והרי זה נזק לדור דורים מעובד לא יוכל לתקן ומחלל הוד יעקב וקדושת ישראל לעולמים. Like this is a very long-term problem. Like this is for olamim if we don't have Binyamin be a shevet. Okay. But still, okay, so what's their solution? So then they're looking into what happened when we made the shvuah that everybody has to come, okay? פסוק זין, מה נעשה להם לנותרים לנשים, ואנחנו נשבענו בהשם לבלתי לתת לנו מבנותינו לנשים? How are we going to give wives to שבט בנימין? ויאמרו מי אחד משבטי ישראל אשר לא עלה אל השם המצפה, הנה לא בא איש אל המחנה מיבש גלעד אל הקהל. Okay? So they found something a little out, is that they found that there was one city that didn't come when everybody was called. Again, like it's if you remember all of Shoftim, how many times did not everybody come? Mm-hmm. And this is the one time they have everybody come, to the extent that they have said anybody who doesn't come is going to die. And then there's this one, they've managed to get everybody but this one city. So what are they going to do to this city?
We've had the Yavesh Gilad before. Who was Yavesh Gilad?
We are going to hear about Yavesh Gilad in Shmuel. Yavesh Gilad are the people later who the Nachash Amoni is going to shave off half of their hairs, and they're going to embarrass them completely. And because of them, Shaul, it's the first time Shaul, the king, is going to save them. They're going to appeal to Shaul, and then he's going to save him, which is, again, there's a lot of things in Shmuel that show a tikkun of things that happen here, okay? But Yavesh Gilad is, I think it's on the map. Yavesh Gilad is in Shevet, on the other side of the Yarden. I think it's Shevet Menashe. here. It's here. This is Yavesh Gilad. Okay? And they're here. Okay, so Yavesh Gilad is over here, although it's not quite as north as the Kinneret. It's like it's on the Ever Yarden on the other side. Now it's in Jordan. But,
Why didn't they come?
so why didn't they come? And it's pretty serious that they didn't come.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't have a reason why they didn't come, but they didn't come. Maybe they were like, no, we don't. Either they were actually didn't what was happening was right, or they couldn't be bothered. Which the reason I'm saying that is I don't know if you remember in Dvorah's time, Reuven, she criticizes Reuven, Reuven and Shimon, this whole area, that they didn't come to help when fight when there were the Zvulun and Naphtali were in trouble. So it's not unheard of that they don't come when there's something, but we don't have a reason why they didn't come. Okay, but they didn't come.
Here.
What? Oh, that Barbanel. Okay.
It says the Barbanel comments that they didn't come. They may have been forgiven for not coming because they may have been afraid of war. But why had they not come to Bethel to share in the nation's grief and soul searching of the tragic loss of life? Their indifference now made this.
So both the fact that, although it's not quite in the pshat, but okay. Meaning, like the fact could be that there's a good reason. Like I said, it could be there's a good reason that they didn't come. They didn't think this was the right thing to be doing to to destroy Binyamin. But it could be. But now that they're not there, okay. I don't know. I take it or leave it. Okay.
It's not such a bad thing that daughters marry in. Like it's not.
No, the thing is, we're going to destroy everybody in Yavesh Gilad except for the daughters. Like meaning, like I'm saying, yeah. Let's just finish the story.
Wipe out one for the other.
I mean, it's their way of doing things. Is what really. Right, mamash.
Although you could say they spent.
Yeah, and I mean,
is when you don't realize what the consequences of your neder is.
Although they spent the whole of Yeshua spending their days and nights with swords in their hands, like this is what they've been doing because God said so.
Right.
So
I mean, it depends when this happens. And that could have been 300 years ago. What?
They said it could have happened quite early on.
Yes, nachon. Rav Midan thinks this happened right away. However, it's like there are issues with that. Okay, so then because it makes sense because there's Pinchas here. We have a lot of reasons to think that. But there's also reasons to say that it's like how could it have happened so close to Yeshua? They had just fought together.
They had just fought.
You're saying that's the way they do things, right?
Yeah,
right. Nachon. Yochayot. Mamash could be. Okay.
The solution is mamash.
What? The solution is, I know. I was like, it doesn't get better really right now. Well, okay. Okay, so maybe the Barbanel is basing on that they're also not here now. Like they aren't seeing the problem with the and then it could be. ויצוו אותם לאמור, לקחו והכיתם את יושבי יבש גלעד לפי חרב ואנשים ועטף.
Yeah, okay. So where's their charata of what they did to Binyamin?
מאה אחוז. So that's what Rav Meidan is like. You could say that like, okay, they had to do cherem on the city that didn't come and they have motumat. But that all the children and all the wives, everybody has to be killed? So like this is not, what's the city? Ernidachat. Like you really took this to the extreme. Like there's a limit. Like it doesn't that. Yeah, and I mean I brought in the next sheet like the Ramban who explains what was their reasoning, but it doesn't sit comfortably. Like that's not even you can't do it completely. Okay. וזה הדבר שתעשו כל זכר וכל אישה יודעת משכב זכר תחרימו וימצאו מיושבי יבש גלעד 400. Okay, so they actually do it. You don't even have a pasuk saying that they did it. This is what they do. And what happens? וימצאו מיושבי יבש גלעד 400 נערה בתולה אשר לא ידע איש למשכב זכר ויביאו אותם אל המחנה שילה אשר בארץ כנען.
Why 400, not 600?
Because they only found 400. It's one city. Okay? It's like Okay. But what did I want to say about this? All right, so they actually do this, and this is, and they kill everybody, and they have left 400 narrows. And we have a problem, because there's 400 and 600 men. What are we going to do? Okay. There's a little bit of a parody here. It's like as it's horrible, and at the same time you're almost laughing. Okay. וישלחו כל העדה וידברו על בני בנימין אשר בסלע הרימון ויקראו להם שלום. Okay, so they're hiding in Sela Rimon. The Bnei Binyamin, they don't really feel like coming out right now, and they send them a peace negotiations party. וישב בנימין בעת ההיא ויתנו להם אנשים אשר חיו מנשי יבש גלעד ולא מצאו להם כן. Okay, so they gave them the 400, but it's not quite enough. One thing I did want to say is, in our heads, we should also, there is actually a very similar story in the Torah, in Nehemiah Midian, that Moshe gets upset that they leave all the women alive, and then he says to kill all the women who had been with the Zachar, because they were the ones that caused the sin in Am Yisrael, and they only allow the Banot Betulot to be alive. There is, you can't not mention that it reminds us of that war, okay? והעם ניחם לבנימין כי עשה השם פרץ בשבטי ישראל. And they're trying to make Binyamin feel better, and because there was a פרץ בשבטי ישראל. ויאמרו זקני האדם, מה נעשה לנותרים לנשים כי נשמדה בבנימין אישה? But we still have a problem. There's 200 boys who don't have a wife. And we all swore. ויאמרו ירושת פליטה לבנימין ולא ימחה שבט מישראל. And they're very worried about this. We can't have this shevet destroyed. Now, the Malbim points out... What? Yes. Well, yeah, exactly. Well, but the Malbim points out, but they're not in the same position that they were before. Maybe you could have said Hatarat Nedarim before, but now, like, Binyamin has some sherits now. Okay, there's 400 families. So you can't really now say, okay, those 200 we'll just give our daughters. Like, we don't have the way out anymore, okay?
And Atziv justifies them.
That they couldn't.
No, he justifies their
the killing of Yavesh Gilad. Right, all right. So
it.
I brought a few sources that there is an argument. You tell me what the Netziv says.
Netziv defends the action of the tribes on the basis of national security. Unless the people remained united, they were in constant danger of invasion, and by breaking this unity, Yavesh Gilad would be tempting enemies to attack. This is especially dangerous because Yavesh Gilad was a border city, and thus essential to the defense of the country. So the fact that they didn't come
was a really serious issue.
It was a serious issue.
It was a serious issue. And also, I think if you remember, Gidon kills, I mean, that fitting with the Netziv is Gidon also destroys a whole city because they didn't come when he called. They didn't give bread when they didn't support the soldiers. True, another argument. Okay, interesting. Okay, where are we? ויאמרו ירושת פליטה לבנימין ולא ימחה שבט מישראל ואנחנו לא נוכל לתת להם נשים מבנותינו כי נשבעו בני ישראל לאמור ארור נותן אישה לבנימין. Okay, well, we're stuck. What do we do about these 200 still? Okay. ויאמרו הנה חג השם בשילה מימים ימימה אשר מצפונה לבית אל מזרחה השמש למסילה העולה מבית אל שכמה ומנגד ללבונה. So basically there is this chag that they have. By the way, this is the makor for Tu B'Av being the Yom Ha'ava. And then they would do this going to the kramim and dancing. And they say it's outside of Shiloh. And here we're saying mitzafona lebeit el, that really is around Shiloh. And so, okay, so they say we're going to have this chag. V'yetzavu et bnei Binyamin lemor lechu ve'aravtem b'kramim. Okay, so go to the kramim. V'ritem v'hine im yatzu bnot Shiloh lachul b'mecholot. ויצאתם מן הכרמים וחטפתם לכם איש אשתו מבנות שילה והלכתם ארץ בנימין. Okay, so they have a beautiful.
That's the solution, because they're not giving them.
Yeah.
Beseder, but it's ofeching tu ba'av to something completely different now.
What in what way?
It's not Yom Ahava, it's Yom Chatifa.
Sounds
Did those
like
girls really want to go?
Exactly.
Okay, it's very interesting because there's actually a novel of Orna Bordeman, and she does one about this whole story. It's actually fascinating. Like it's like she really uses midrashim and everything, and she talks about how like the girl, she describes this, and it was the girls were happy to like in some extent. Remember, I think the standards of like how much you're supposed to know the guy before you marry him were a little bit lower, but like it sounds like a chatifa, but on the other hand, like it's like any courting, it could be. Like it doesn't have to. They say lachtov. Why are they emphasizing the lachtov? Is that it can't be that the father is giving the daughter. Okay. If they have to take it for themselves. Okay.
Doesn't mean she went against her will.
Well, we don't.
Yeah, it means against the father's will because he made the shvuah. Right.
Yeah, but we still don't know if she was willing.
Nachon.
But wasn't
No,
that the
maybe
whole
she
point?
didn't have to go out to the Karam anyway, because if it was known that the father said, you know,
No, they're hiding. They don't know that they're there.
But that's
No, no, they know.
They
They know.
But
They
that's not
know.
the point of Tu B'Av. No, they
No,
went out
yeah,
to the
exactly.
fields.
They are out in the fields,
That
and
was
this
the
is what
whole
they're
point.
doing. And by the way, the Malbim a little bit answers. It says v'chatavtem is actually v'itnu imam aleph shekol echad lo yachtov rak isha achat. Okay, because you could really start pritzut here. Like you can only take one wife. Okay,
Choose one.
you choose one, no more.
What if two want
But-
the same one?
That's a problem. Whoever gets her first, whatever.
This is starting to, mashu.
It's not our shita, but to some extent, it's actually probably closer to our shita than they usually had. Usually, the father decided for the daughter who she was going to marry, and she didn't meet him until she went to his house. Like I'm saying, like that probably was much more the norm
look, if it
than.
really bothered the fathers, I mean, they knew, this is the decision that they made, okay? If they didn't want to do it, they could have told the daughters, you're not going out tonight.
Yeah, nachon, don't go to do the
Don't
mechalot.
go to the party.
Yes, it's mamash, okay? And the second thing they said is shiolichum eretz binyamin, and I think that was in the pasuk, right? Isha, it said v'yatzatem min akramim,
Where does it say?
v'chatavtem
that
lachem
the
ish
white dresses?
ishto. What? That doesn't say it here.
Where does it get that from?
That's Chazal. Chazal say on Yom Kippur and on Tu B'Av they went with white dresses and they danced. Okay, those lo yus yamim smechim kmo Yom Kippur ve Tu B'Av. Okay, so ish ishto. Okay, that's where I think also the Malbim's getting this one woman. Okay, ibnot Shilo ve'alachtem eretz binyamin is that shelo yasigu otam avotam larivi mehem. Just go away. Like go away to Eretz Binyamin. First of all, because Eretz Binyamin needs to be populated, and second of all, because so there's no conflict with your father-in-law. Okay. Okay. V'haya ki yavo avotam o achihem lariv elenu ve'amarnu alehem chanonu otam ki lo lakachnu ish ishto b'milchama ki lo atem natatem lahem ka'et ta'ashmu. And if the fathers or the brothers have a problem with this, just say, no, you didn't give it to us, so it's allowed. Okay? ויעשו כן בני בנימין ויישאו נשים למספרם מן המחוללות אשר גזלו וילכו וישובו על נחלתם ויבנו את הערים וישבו בהם. ויתהלכו משם בני ישראל בעת ההיא איש לשבטו ולמשפחתו ויצאו משם איש לנחלתו. Okay, so
And they lived happily
but that's not the last pasuk.
Yes.
The last pasuk is וימים ההם אין מלך בישראל איש הישר בעיניו יעשה. Okay, so on the one hand it's like, okay, supposedly everybody lived happily ever after, which mamash not. And second of all, there's 2 pages. I gave here a lot, but this is really also, if you want to read it at home, like we're not going to read all of it, but there was this book, this Rav Avraham Remer, which I did quote a few times, but not as often.
Yeah.
Wait, I have more, not to worry. 2. You need to take for Becky? Okay, so I'll give 2 for Becky. Also. Okay.
Who's
And then
taking
one
for
more.
Becky?
I take the first one.
Wait a minute, 1 second.
There's 2
There's one
pages.
up.
It's 2 pages.
Here, this-
Each one is 2 pages.
This is
Oh
one
wait,
minute.
did I? Is it? It's gone
No, yeah,
mixed
I'm
up.
You're
missing-
missing a page.
Okay,
and
here.
this
Second
one.
page.
Yeah, the second page. Is it that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have here left also for Hindi one. Okay. Okay, so we end with this. Right, En melech b'Yisrael isha yashar b'nav yaseh. But I first, before we go into what Rav Remer says, which he actually takes it to a more positive place, which I thought would be helpful, because it was like you're really seeing a lot of the negative things that are happening. So there's 3 things I wanted to do. One was to try to understand a little bit this concept of why they were allowed to kill Anshe Yavesh Gilad or Binyamin, like this cherem, this concept of the cherem, which is actually in the Midrash. Because it's not something that we're so comfortable with, but there is a concept of it, which again, I think the Netziv pointed out the practical side of it, but there's also like when you're not being with the Am, there's a problem also. Okay, so the Midrash Tanchuma, in 1, תדע לך כוח החרם, שהרי השבטים שכינו על פילגש בגבעה ולא קינאו על פסל מיכה, הרגו בהם בני בנימין פעם ראשונה ושנייה ושלישית כמה אלפים, ולבסוף עשו תשובה, ונפלו לפני הארון, ונתרצה להן הקדוש ברוך הוא. So first of all, the Midrash says, like, you should understand what the koach of cherem is, because these shvatim that were so zealot for the Pelegish B'Givah, but not for Besel Micha, hinting at that Midrash we learned in Sanhedrin, right? That this is why they were punished and they had so many die. ונתרצה להם הקדוש ברוך הוא, והחרימו שיבואו כל ישראל מקטן ועד גדול. When this all happened, they made a cherem that everybody had to come. שנאמר כי השבועה הגדולה הייתה לאשר לא עלה לשם המצפה, לאמור מות יומת. That was in the psukim. Like, there was a big shvuah made that whoever does not come to the mitzpeh, El Hashem, will die. וכי שבועה הייתה שם. אלא למדך שהחרם היא השבועה, אנשי יבש גלעד לא עלו ונתחייבו מיתה. So they were actually, what Am Yisrael did, there was something okay about it. Meaning, if you say that everybody has to come and a person doesn't come, then they have chayim mita. Like, there is a concept, just like when Yoshua made a cherem on Yericho, and then Achan takes from the cherem, he's chayav mita. Okay, so it's a similar concept, and they actually, in the Midrash earlier, it talks about Yoshua and Achan. And it's something hard for us to take, I think, like this concept of like, you die if you don't, you don't listen. I don't think nowadays it would go so well. But really, that's the case, is that when Am Yisrael decides to do something, and there's a shavua made, there's din mavet if you don't keep it. Okay, that's pretty serious. Okay, and then the Ramban also, he talks about it. Also, Matzinu Anshe Yavesh Gilad she'avru al shuvat hakahal v'lo ba'u al mitzpeh v'chtiv v'yishalchu sham ha'eda 12,000 ish mibnei achayel ויעשו אותם לכו והכיתם את יושבי יבש גילה לפי חרב, ואין הסברה נותנת שעשו כל העדה הרעה הזאת להעמיד אנשים רבים מישראל שאינם חייבים מיתה, ופנחס היה שם, ועל פיו נעשה כל העניין ההוא. The Ramban is like, it has to be that there must have been some reason here. You can't imagine that they'll just kill so many people for no reason, and that this is the reason. Again, Rav Meidan's comment on this was, even so, like, to kill a whole city for that lo mitashev b'dat. Like, that's the way Meidan was. Okay. And then I wanted to bring 3 also. Again, Mishpatei HaCherem Shel Ramban from the Shut HaRashba. ואם החרים אותו חרם מלך ישראל או סנהדרין במעמד רוב ישראל, הרי העובר עליו חייב מיתה. Okay? If there's somebody who does a cherem, and then the over alav chayav mita. ורשאים הם המלך או הסנהדרין להמית אותו באיזה מיתה שירצו. And then they bring the example of Yoshua, And also with Shaul, which we haven't learned, but Shaul with his son Yonatan, Shaul makes a shvuah that nobody should eat anything. They're going out to war, and then Yonatan eats. And then what saves Yonatan is that the people don't allow Shaul to kill him. But Shaul is ready to kill his son because they went over this shvuah. Okay. Right, so that's talking about it. Anshe Yavesh lo alu, I skipped to the last three lines. ונתחייבו מיתה, ואני אומר בשמה אחר בקשה המחילה, שזהו פשט הכתוב בתורה, כל חרם אשר יחרם מן האדם לא יפדה מות יומת. Okay, it's based on the Torah. כלומר, מה שהסכימו עליו הכל, והוא חרם לדעתם, לא יפדה, אלא חייב מיתה. Okay, so again, it's tough, but that there was some halachic understanding that there is the fact that Yavesh Gilad didn't come wasn't okay, and therefore they were chayav mitah. Again, it's very difficult, and
I think it's more difficult because there was no Sanhedrin and there was no manhig rishmi.
I mean, we say Pinchas was there.
Yeah. But that's what the Midrashim say.
Right, nachon, 100%. And I think, like, again, so I sat with myself and I thought, what were the things that we saw that were a problem in Shoftim in general? Okay, like taking in general. So the first thing that Chazal say is that the Sanhedrin didn't go around the cities and teach. Okay, so clearly there's something lacking in the Sanhedrin in the time of Shoftim. Okay, like they're supposed to be the source of authority to some extent. We don't hear anything about them, and they clearly have something that they didn't pass on to the people that they're supposed to be lechanech, the thing. So that was one thing I was thinking. Because I was like, we're finishing the whole book, so like it's also trying to make some sort of a conclusion. The second thing was that we had this cycle, right? Remember, there was this cycle that we do bad, Hashem punishes us, we call out to Him, and then He saves us, right? And then we saw that in the middle of the book of Shoftim, Hashem's like, I'm not playing this game anymore, right? That there was this using Hashem, and maybe, I think the Rav Tamir, I brought it at that point, was like, it's a little bit of avodah zarah, like, I'm using Hashem when it's convenient for me, like, He's that God that I turn to when things go bad, like, meaning, like, it's not real avodat Hashem. So that was the second thing that we saw. In Pesach Micha, we saw, so then throughout Shoftim, you saw also the lack of unity. Like most of Shoftim, you saw the lack of unity. Only at the end here did we get to the point where we're actually seeing the unity, right? Unfortunately, in the wrong circumstances. Maybe not wrong, but somehow distorted.
From it or not.
What?
It depends if they learn from it or not.
Nachon. It also depends when Pילגש בגבעה happened. It could be it was at the beginning. And
So
then
they did learn from it.
So they did learn. They were like, okay, we're not doing anything together. Maybe, nachon. And we saw also the uprooting in Pילגש of B'giv'a story. You see the not only is it first of all, I wanted to say Pesach Micha story. Pesach Micha story is the confusion in serving Hashem. Like they think they're doing things for Hashem, but they're really doing avodah zarah, mamash, and they're creating their own religion, and they're doing whatever they're bringing their own levim, and they're using the terms, but they're doing it completely wrong. But on the other hand, there's the credits that they are machnis orchim, right? And then in the Pילגש b'giv'a story, you even lose that. The whole the hachasat orchim, the